1, 2,
interview, female. Oh shit, I almost got some blood going. Oh, he's wearing it too.
You're in the bay. Once you get over to the bed, we'll give you the story. Everything's going to happen super fast. Welcome to the emergency room.
I lost the phone.
It's 300 please.
I'll keep you on guard again.
Pulse check. No pulse.
No more phones.
Yeah. Where the echo people get? And her blood pressure is off the dropping.
45 minutes of CPR and no return of circulation. Okay.
Hey guys. So it's coming up on August, and a lot of these new grads are getting ready to start applying for jobs and everything. And your teachers have been feeding you guys a line of shit about, you can do this and it'll look good on your resume. You can do this, it'll look good on your resume, blah, 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 whatever. I'm going to let you know right now, man, having ACLS, PALS, if you're wanting to get into the ER, NRP, TNCC, those are what's going to get you the interview, right? Not sitting on the student nurse organization, not being in the Greek life or whatever. Being in the Greek life might get you someone that you may know to get you the interview, but it's going to be like your certifications, in your work ethic that's really going to land you the job. So I probably should have made this episode a while back, but here we are. So let's talk about it. You guys have probably been sold this pipeline dream of there's a massive nursing shortage. And in other parts of the US, that's probably true. Now, the world, because I do have listeners all around the world, I don't know what the nursing landscape is like outside of the US because I don't practice nursing outside of the US, right? I've looked at it. I've looked at, practicing nursing in the UK and Norway and Australia and all these other places, but I haven't really landed on a country that I'll be like, hey, like I wouldn't mind going over there and nursing for a while. Australia is really nice, but you guys have fucking spiders that are the size of vehicles, and that just doesn't resonate with me very well. But you guys have been sold this dream that there's this massive nursing shortage in the US. And I will say that's probably true in other parts of the US, but not in Houston. We have a lot of nursing schools in Houston, and we have a lot of nurses in Houston. And I have a story that may or may not back that up. But yeah, so let's just talk about it, right? So I'm going to say LVN for licensed vocational nurse, and then you have an LPN, which is the same thing, just called different in different states, and that's the licensed practical nurse. That's what I am right now. So you guys have been sold this pipeline dream, that this BSN, if that's what you guys have, get the world handed to you, right? And that's partially true, especially if you want to work in like the med center down here in Houston, where you'll take care of the sickest of the sickest of the sickest people. But if you're just looking to kind of get by, then you really don't really need that. And the Profit Over People Big Orange Hospital system just came out on the Becker's Review saying how they're getting rid of their mandate for BSNs. And I want to say it was like Charlotte, North Carolina, I think, where they're making it not a requirement. And I'm probably going to see a trend of that happening here with other hospital systems, because there are certain provisions in the ACA that did not get renewed, and there are a lot of hospital systems that are struggling to meet budget right now because of those revisions being done. And a lot of it has to do with, these insured patients, that this transition period where the hospital is providing this care to these people, but the government is saying that this is going to be covered, but the insurance is saying it's not covered right now. So the insurance is, waiting the government out, saying we're not going to pay for it until you tell us it's going to be mandatory to pay for it. And so the hospital is the one eating this cost, right? And I know if you guys are nursing right now, you're like, good, fuck the hospital. Yeah, it's fuck the hospital until you don't get a paycheck, right? So I'm not sticking up for the hospital. I'm just saying, hey, careful what you ask for. So that's kind of like what the landscape is as of right now, which is, July 23 of 2026. So the government is saying we might not make this mandatory. We might make it mandatory. The insurance companies, your private payers, they're going to be like, well, if that's the case, then we're not going to pay for it until you make us pay for it. And so, you know, um, like we're not just going to pay for it. And so the care still has to get conducted. And so the hospital system is still having to perform the care, but no one's paying for it, because me or you, as the private payer, we don't have, $700,000 for an appendectomy, to get your appendix taken out. We don't have that on hand, and we're going to say it should be covered by insurance. I paid my copay, you're good to go. And the insurance is saying, nah, I'm not paying for it because it's not mandated. And the government is saying, we're not paying for it either because we don't know if it's going to be covered or not. And that right there is kind of like the big beautiful bill. I think big beautiful bill. I think that's kind of somewhere the contention's coming from, because we're transitioning from the ACA to the BBB. Um, so like that's kind of the landscape right now. So there's a lot of hospital systems that are struggling to make ends meet, and if you think you're in a hospital that's not doing that struggle, you're lying to yourself because every hospital system is feeling it right now. And so that's the reasoning why a lot of these hospital systems are looking at going back to the model before magnet status came out. And that model was basically a whole bunch of hospital floors run by the LVNs or LPNs. And you have one, two, or three RNs to do your 24-hour assessments, right? Or your 12-hour assessments or whatever. And then the RNs will run the floor, be like the charge, if you want to put that in air quotes. And then your LVNs are the ones carrying out the care. So we're going to be seeing that model come back. Now, the reasoning they got rid of that model is because when the ACEN, I think is who it was, came out and said, BSNs provide the best care, and this is the study that proves it. And the study, spoiler alert, was complete shit. But that's what they're hanging their hat on. Now, in science and in medicine, any study that's over 10 years old, right, is almost archaic and it has no weight to it. The only time you see that is in cardiovascular health with your cholesterol and this BSN bullshit. Okay. So that came out, and then that nursing organization said if your organization has greater than 90% of its staff that are BSNs, we'll cut you a nice little check. As long as they're all happy, your staff are BSNs and all this other good shit, we'll cut you a nice little check for it. And then, you can hang this plaque in your lobby that says you guys provide the best care. And so these hospital systems struggling to make ends meet back then hopped on board and was like, hey, we're going to do this. And so that didn't leave any room for the LVN, LPN, right? And so as time starts unfolding, right, I'm willing to bet if they redo that study, their results would not be the same because new grad BSNs are not, how do I put this lightly, good, right? You're not good because you don't know. Like, it's not because like you're not taught right. It's because you get taught NCLEX, you don't get taught nursing. And then when you go to clinical, you don't want to work for free. So you just want to work on your care plan and you don't want to do patient care. And that right there falls on both the hospital system and the school that you're a part of. Because they want you to do these stupid ass care plans. And I don't understand why, when you can drop the care plan and then just make sure that you're doing the hands-on work like you're supposed to. That way you can become good at it, right? But that's not what's happening or whatever. So I'm not here to change your mind about that. But a lot of these fallouts are happening because of these BSNs, and they're usually the new grad BSNs. Now, I'm not here to argue with you about where this empirical data is coming from. Not at all. I'm just telling you that from my conversations with risk managers across multiple hospital systems, that is what we are seeing. Okay. It is no fault of your guys at all because you don't know any different. Okay. So that's what's kind of happening right now. And because of the ACA stuff, like they're looking at bringing that model back. All right. So here I am. I'm finishing up this RN program. I'll finish up in December. We're rounding out, our mental health rotation. We're going to jump right into critical care, and then we'll all sit for the NCLEX and be on our merry way. So I'm making this episode, man, to show you that if you're having a hard time finding a job, then, go to where you're valued. All right. So there's a little story that I tell everyone if you start questioning your ability, your value, or whatever. And it goes along something like this. I'm damn near 40 years old. Surprise, right? Been across the world. I have been to war. I've come back, right? And one of the things that I value the most is being able to move through time and space on this spinning rock efficiently. If I walk and it hurts, I don't like it. And I will do everything I can to get back to being able to move freely without pain, right? Or discomfort. And so I go to a massage therapist. Her name, doesn't matter, but I go to her, and after every massage, she gives me a bottle of water. It's free, right? And I take the bottle of water and I put it in the car and I don't ever touch it or whatever. And I move on about my day, right? But if I were to take that same bottle of water and I were to go to Walmart, or some big box store, that bottle of water will cost me $1 or $2 or something like that. You go to a vending machine, it might cost you $1 or $2. You go inside, it might cost you $2, $3, maybe $1 again, and then you go to a movie theater and that same bottle of water will now cost you $5. Okay. And then you go to an outdoor sporting event like a baseball game, football game, soccer game, tennis, whatever. That same bottle of water, like here in FIFA, there were reports that bottles of water were selling for $20, right? It's the same bottle of water, but your location changed because of what your value is. So I'm here to tell you, man, if you're looking for a job here in Houston, you're not a $20 bottle of water. I hate to break it to you. You're more like the $2 bottle of water. Okay. So go to somewhere where you're going to be that $20 bottle of water. And so there's a hospital system here in Houston that treated me like a free bottle of water, and I will not ever work for them. And so story time. I just finished up my LVN program, right, a few years ago, and I was having the hardest time finding a job in a hospital system. Now, my ultimate goal is to be a CEO or a COO of a major hospital system in this area. That's my objective. That's the whole reason for me, like dropping, my PhD, leaving it by the wayside, not doing anything psychology related, and then picking up nursing and then diving into that. And so I know that me working in a nursing home isn't going to get me any closer to being that CEO, COO. So I didn't even apply to nursing homes, even though they were offering LVNs, LPNs $40, $45, $50 an hour. I didn't want that because that's not making my goal. So I was only applying to hospital systems here in the Houston area, and I wasn't getting any bites, none. And so I got an email from the hospital system here in Houston that says that they are leading medicine, which is a crock of shit. But they were leading medicine. And so I hop on to this virtual job fair because, again, I'm leaving no stone unturned. And it was a bunch of people in there. People were getting job offers. You could see it in the chat. I got this job offer. They're offering this, whatever. Don't let them try to screw you, whatever. And they were trying to moderate the chat, but it was happening so fast that they were not successful. And so I happened to get a hold of a recruiter, and I was talking to them. I was like, hey, I just became a nurse. I'm looking at trying to get into the ER. They're like, oh, great, we have a few positions for the ER. Can you tell me when you finish your RN program? I was like, I'm not in an RN program. I'm in an LVN program. And they never responded. Never responded. Right. I would reach out to them, like a few minutes went by. I said, hey, is everything okay? They didn't respond. Right. And then I was like, hey, everything okay? No response. And so I started messaging other people, and then like they wouldn't respond either. And I was like, man, that's really shitty. That's a really shitty way of doing things. So yeah, I don't know if it's the hospital system or if it's the recruiters that are shit, but one of the two is shit. And because I was looking at getting a job with the hospital system, I'm attributing it to them, when in reality, it probably was the recruiter. Now, if you know a friend that's a recruiter or you are a recruiter, you suck. Especially in the Houston area, you suck. Okay. You don't have to work for your job. Okay. You don't have to work because you have hundreds and thousands of applications a day to sift through, candidates to sift through. So you don't have to go out and work for those leads. You can just wait and see. All right. And you find the ones that you like the most, maybe with the prettiest font, prettiest header, greatest wording, the prettiest color, whatever. Those are the ones you kind of push forward, and then everyone else kind of gets tossed off to the side. And you get the email, sorry, we're not interested in you. And so that kind of happened, right? And so, kind of discouraged, I went on to the Profit Over People Big Orange Hospital, and I applied to two positions in states that I've always wanted to live in. One was in New Hampshire, one was in Virginia, right? I submitted these applications on a Friday night, probably around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, which would have been 7 or 8 in those time zones because they're an hour ahead of Texas. And I went to bed. I woke up the next morning. And then in the next morning, by the time I woke up, which was around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, I had two recruiters from these hospitals reaching out to me, asking me for an interview. Right. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, this is a weekend. And they're asking me first thing in the morning, hey, do you want to work here? Right. And whereas when you're in Houston, you submit an application, it might take a week or two before someone reaches out to you. And I was sitting here getting reached out to not even 12 hours, from the time that I submitted the application. So I talked to them, right? Let's just say both of their names were Jennifer, right? So I talked to Jennifer from New Hampshire and I talked to Jennifer from Virginia, and we talked and talked, and both of the ladies were great, right? I believe that both of them probably are outstanding leaders. And so I really wanted to live in New Hampshire, and I still do to this day. And it was a small hospital, about 100 beds. And then there was another hospital down in Virginia. It was closer to 1,200 beds. And so after talking to both of them, knowing that I wanted to get my RN and transition later, right? The lady that worked in Virginia, she was like, hey, we got this nursing school that partnered with our hospital that's literally 5 minutes down the road. And I was like, okay. So I was like, all right. So I submitted my interest to them, and I was like, hey, I'm going to accept this position. I had to turn down the position in New Hampshire, which still kicks me in the ass to this day because that's been like a dream place for me to live for so long, is that New Hampshire, New England area. And so, like I said, okay, I'll go to Virginia. And if you know anything about me, I believe that, the Marcus Aurelius way of saying it, the impediment to action leads to action. What stands in the way becomes the way. And so basically means like if it's hard to do, then that's probably what you should be doing. Right. I'm not one that wants an easy anything. I want to work for it because you savor it that much more. And so, moving to these states would have been a significant move for me and everything that I have here. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I fly down there to over to Virginia, and I'm doing my paperwork. And I was there for a day and a half, I think, to get my paperwork done, submit all my stuff, licensure and stuff like that. But the one thing that I was having a problem with was finding a job. Not finding a job, finding a place to live. Okay. And so I went around and I was in this weird area to where like I would barely qualify for some of the apartments that I wanted to live in, but I knew it would be rough every month to make it by. Or I could be very comfortable but live in a very sketchy part of town, right? So there was like no middle ground there. It was either struggle and be okay or be comfortable but not be okay. And so I was like, you know what, I can tackle this, back in Houston, figure it out. So I go to like this Applebee's or something like that next to the airport, and because I hadn't eaten all day, and so I was starving, and I go to this, Applebee's, and I finish up eating, and I have my computer out, and I'm looking for apartments, and she was like, hey, I'm not trying to be nosy, but what's going on? And I was like, oh man, I'm getting ready to head on a plane and head back to Houston. I just accepted a job here and I can't find a place to live. I was like, hey, like, where do you live? You know? She was like, well, me and my fiance, we live in this place called like the Chateau or something like that. And it's only 2, 3, and 4 bedroom places, but they have a sister facility or a sister complex that has only 1 and 2 bedrooms, and it's literally right across the street from the hospital. And I was like, what do you mean, like right across the street from the hospital? She said, word for word, you can stand in the parking lot of the hospital, spit into the parking lot of the apartment complex. And I was like, all right, cool. So I got the name of the place and I called them before I left. And the lady was like, hey, I was like, hey, I need a place to live. And she said, sorry, we don't have any vacancies right now. She was like, but in a week or two, we just had this a tenant tell us that they're not renewing, and we'll have that unit available for show in like a week. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be here in a week. I'll just do it sight unseen. She was like, okay, well, go ahead and submit your application with the fees and stuff like that and background check and whatnot. And then if you come out clear, we'll go ahead and hold the apartment for you. And so I did. I paid my application fee. I paid the background fee. I paid all this shit, and submitted it. And she called me back like a few days later and was like, hey, everything came back and everything's clear. So when the apartment comes up for rent, we'll hold it for you. And then when you get here, you can come in and sign the lease and sign all this stuff. And I was like, okay, and so it's like, I don't believe in serendipity, right? But that was like a very serendipity. Okay. And so I get there and I had the best time, the most amazing time there. It was a very great experience working there. So I wanted to make this episode, man, to say if you just finished nursing school and you're having a hard time finding a place to work, and you happen to be in the Houston area or you're from out of state looking at trying to practice nursing in the Houston area, it's going to be a little hard because there are more nurses in this area than there is anything else. So don't give up. You might not be looking in the right area, but just know you can get a job. It might be a little bit more difficult, but it's possible. But go to where you're valued, right? Be that $20 bottle of water at FIFA. Don't be the free bottle of water that my massage therapist gives me at the end of every month. Um, so yeah, I wanted to come on here because I know a lot of people are getting ready to graduate, and I know my cohort is getting ready to graduate here in 6 months or whatnot. And so I just wanted to put that out there and say, hey man, like if you're having a hard time, maybe look somewhere else, or if you have no responsibilities whatsoever, then and you feel like jumping the nest, then look for something, somewhere outside of your state. And don't be afraid, man. Like it seems a lot scarier than it is. And then when you go, if you are that new grad BSN, I'm letting you know, man, you don't know shit. Okay. You don't know anything. You know disease process, but you don't know shit. Okay. And if you have ACLS, you still don't know shit. If you have PALS, you still don't know shit. You have TNCC, you still don't know shit, right? You won't know shit until you start getting hours under your belt and patient care under your belt, okay? when the 30-year nurse, 20-year nurse comes up to you and says, hey, I see you doing it like this. Why don't you try it like this? Give it a fucking shot because you don't know anything. They've been doing this for 20 years, 30 years. You don't know anything. Even if they are an LVN, even if they are a tech, even if they are just an RN, an ADN, right? And you're the BSN. You don't know anything, man. And that goes the same for the RNs too. If you're 20 years old and you think you know it all because you just walked out of school and you graduated cum laude or whatever, you don't know a fucking thing, dude. All right. So keep your mouth shut, keep your eyes open, keep your ears even wider, and then go out there and do something and make the world a better place. I promise you, man, you don't know shit. Right. And until you realize that, man, you're the most dangerous person on the floor. I promise you that. All right. So, guys, keep on keeping on, and I hope you guys listen to this and get something out of it. Again, man, if you're finding it hard to get a job, you know, it's not your student nurse organization or your Greek life organization involvement that's going to get you the job. It's going to be like, what do you know, like ACLS, PALS, TNCC, you know, yeah, NRP or whatever. It's going to be those things, right? Flexibility, you know, like how flexible are you, right? Because if you're the nurse that only wants to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that way you can have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off. That way you can party all weekend and have Monday to recover. You're not worth the fuck, right? So, be a team player, be flexible, know your shit, right? If the doc tells you something or a more experienced nurse tells you something, listen, right? Just because you went to nursing school, the best nursing school in the world, let's say you went to, I don't know, the big nursing schools out here, A&M, Tech, UT, if you went to one of those big three schools of nursing, guess what, man? You still learn the same CHF as I did here at this community college. Your education is no better than mine. We're still taking care of the same person, the same disease process, the same medications. So it doesn't mean shit. All right. Know your stuff, learn your stuff, keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, and keep your eyes alert. Be hyper vigilant. Don't make any mistakes. And if you do, report it. Don't sit there and try to skirt accountability. Report your mistake. Okay. Because if you don't report it, you're probably going to kill someone if you keep on doing what you're doing. Okay. So again, guys, keep it up, man. Congratulations to the nurses that just graduated the summer semester. Go out there and be fucking awesome. All right. You guys earned it. You guys deserve it. Like I said, don't be the dangerous person on the floor. Be the one that absorbs everything you can. All right. Learn from your preceptor. Learn from your coworkers. Okay. We're all there, for patient care. All right. The most respected nurse on the floor, I can promise you this, is the one who asks questions. They're the most respected person on the floor. The person who thinks they know it all is the person that hurts the most. All right. I'll see you guys around. Peace out.